People who've taken part in the far-right riots across the UK could be banned from football stadiums. So far, police have made 483 arrests and brought 149 charges. Policing Minister Dame Diana Johnson said plan to ban convicted rioters from football managers is being looked at.
Far-right rioters could face football ban. Is that something the government is looking at, that if you're convicted of any of the events that we've seen over the last 7 or 8 days, you won't be able to go and see your team on its travels?
Well, I think all options are being looked at, to be honest, and I'm pretty clear that most football clubs do not want to be seen to have football hooligans and people carrying out criminal acts on the streets of the local communities in their stands on a Saturday. So I think that's a very live debate that's going on at the moment. And I think there are consequences for people's bad behaviour on our streets and their criminal activity.
OK, consequences for people's bad behaviour, but should those consequences mean that they're not allowed to go and watch their favourite football team? What are your thoughts on this, Nina? Will it be effective?
I think, ban them from something they love, that's going to be pretty effective. And also, many of them have 70% of the people who've been arrested have got previous convictions for thuggery of some kind. And do people want that in their football stadiums? I mean, I know nothing and care less about football, by the way, but I do know that football season's about to start this weekend. For instance, Tommy Robinson, the far-right activist, he was banned from football for 4 years for punching someone. So it's this testosterone-driven thuggery and criminality. And seriously, football clubs are trying to make family-friendly audiences. I mean, the kids, fathers take their sons or their daughters, and do you seriously want to think you're going to be standing next to somebody who can behave like that?
Yes, but I feel like then you could extend that argument across the board. They shouldn't be allowed on public transport. They shouldn't be allowed to, to watch their favourite band or whatever.
No. But I think football is a different thing because they get tanked up and they're ready for it. I mean, in these kind of riots. There were the riots of 2011, which was started by Mark Duggan, a black guy being shot, and the rioting then ensued. But before that, the sort of hooliganism we'd seen, it was called football hooliganism, and that's been going on for literally centuries.
Yes. And actually, they've done quite well for trying to stop football hooliganism from handing out football banning orders. Yeah. So this is an effective way of stopping people, no?
So I don't for a second want to sound like I think anything other than the book should be thrown at the rioters. I absolutely do. I want them to be in prison, and if they're not in prison, then I think they should be on release with very strict rules about where they can go, how far from the house they can go, what times they can be in, ASBOs, whatever. I think that is absolutely fair. What I find slightly odd about this is football bans seem entirely sensible when behaviour like fighting, thuggery has been demonstrated at a football match in the grounds, in a stadium.
Yeah, so I think you get a football ban if you're showing that kind of behaviour 2 hours before and 2 hours after a match, and obviously during.
That's absolutely fine. What seems odd is to face a very specific consequence for something nothing to do with football. It's like, OK, fine, but by the way, some of these people who have already been convicted already have football banning orders in place, and it doesn't seem to stop them. But, I don't go to football matches. If I went out and rioted on the street, that's not a deterrent for me. So why football? Why not another sport? Why wouldn't I be banned from going to the theatre or going and doing some retail therapy? It seems very oddly
do not run
specific.
up and down the aisles drunk punching people.
Well, you've never been to Mamma Mia. And I also think it's very odd for this to be something the government's getting involved in. The idea of who can go to football matches, that seems to be something that should be sorted out by police, the courts and the football stadium operators themselves. I don't see why the government should be saying, "Oh yes, we'll remove that specific privilege," or that.
Well, I think they're working together with football and rugby stadiums.
I don't think the government is dictating in any way at this stage. They're discussing it, and I think it's the football clubs themselves, because why on earth would they want these people within their grounds?
Indeed, why on earth would they? David from Bedfordshire, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think we should be banning people from the football matches if they've taken part in the riots?
Well, this week, past few days, some reporters have been saying football, like most football fans, are far right, or most of the rioters are football fans and that. But they're not at a football ground. Two, they probably can't afford to go to football. Three, the supporters that go to these games now, are mostly families and tourist fans.
So you think actually by saying this, you're giving football fans a really bad name?
They're giving football fans the wrong impression. It's just to say that every football fan's a far right hooligan and racist and all this and.
Well, there is history of football hooligans.
There probably are football fans amongst those people, but there's all sorts of people from all walks of life but been involved in these riots, and they're not even far right, are they? Some of them that have been put in prison.
Yeah.
11-year-old boy, or that old man, the 69-year-old, and that.
So
I wouldn't describe them as far right. They probably just, latched on, didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. So, giving footballers a bad name, football fans a bad name. Thank you, David, for your call. Marian from Glasgow, what are your thoughts on this?
Yes, I believe that if there's football supporters that go to pay to go to watch a match, they should be banned from the football. And even further, I think as well, if they work, I think there should be the people that their businesses have come under fire with starting fires, etc., damaged windows, etc. They should be able to get recompensed for any damage that's been done to their property by those people that are perpetrating it.
What,
and
actually
also,
from the individuals?
Yes, and I believe that the police, in their line of duty, is not part of their job to get attacked and injured. And I believe that they should be able to sue the perpetrators, because that's not in line with their job description, getting attacked and verbally abused and getting things, their vans set fire, etc.
To be fair, Marian, that is actually part of the police's job, and although, thank God, that's a tiny part compared with the rest of their duties and the rest of the year. But I have to say that is their job.
Christian, what do you think? Should these thugs actually be paying out money to the people that are...
I think. Do you know what? I've got no immediate objections to either of those proposals. I think any disincentives that make people think twice are very good. And I think it's absolutely right, the idea that if your window's been broken into, had a brick thrown at it, you should not be liable to any of the repair costs. Of course, whether these people have that money or not is a different question, is a different matter. And given most of these protests tend to be happening in the poorest parts of the country, I'm not sure how that would work if the individuals responsible didn't have any money. But
Marian, can I ask you, if you think we should ban the rioters from football stadiums, should we extend that to all criminals? Anyone who's been violent in the past? Would you want to go that far?
Yes, I would believe so. Yeah, I would believe that they should be taken. I mean, I think it's a dire disgrace that when they go into jail as well, they're in jail. They're better looked after in jail, because they have phones, they have visiting rights, they've got rooms, and I believe that's why a lot of them just actually do.
Well, we know that they've got the technology
because they've got a place to live. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Marian, thank you so much for your call. Anthony from London, what do you think? Should we ban the rioters from football matches?
Well, I don't think so, because as has already been said, there is a danger of actually banning people for non-football offences. And as people have said, how do you go? But my issue is, and I don't have my tape radio on, so I don't know why I'm echoing, but some of these people are being potentially charged with terror offences, which was a discussion earlier on in the week. We have people who are abroad on foreign passports for potential terror offences. Going back to the previous topic, could we not review their British citizenship?
Wow. OK, you'd go that far. Dina, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that is a bit harsh, because I think they are British. They are troublemakers, and they are embarrassing, and they are destructive. But they are British. You can't just say, I don't like you, I don't like you, I don't like you. Off you go. Off you go where? And surely, Anthony, it's better that we like with the Shamima Begum case, that we bring them to justice. And I think Keir Starmer's doing a very good job, because the justice being seen to work quite rapidly here. Don't you think? I mean, it's...
Well, that's been their main deterrent, really. It's, being very rapid with getting them through the courts, giving them these hefty sentences, and then off the back of that, hopefully putting off other people.
Well, that has been important, but it was undermined significantly by an announcement immediately after Labour came to power that there were going to be mass early releases of prisoners. In fact, there's a story this morning in the Telegraph that some of the hooligans who are now being imprisoned could be benefiting in future, in short order, from the early releases, because their crimes don't count as the non-violent as violent offences, and therefore they might be released early.
They do count as violent offences, and violent.
Some of them don't.
No, how can you say that any of those rioters are not being tried and convicted of violent offences? Because what we were watching was violence, and that's the very reason that they've been arrested. So that's the Telegraph. That's the Telegraph flying.
No, that's not right. A lot of them are being convicted of violent disorder. Some people are being convicted of looting, which is not a violent offence, so it'd be entirely applicable for early release under Labour's plans. And I'm afraid I appreciate there's a prison crisis, but the solution was not all these early releases. If it had been up to me, we would have had the Bibby Stockholm, we would have floating prison barges, anything but letting them out early.
Christian, letting them out early was a Tory plan. They floated it before that. Never mind Bibby Stockholm. They floated this plan before the election, so you can't blame Keir Starmer for that. Blame Rishi Sunak. No, blame Rishi Sunak.
The difference is that the Tories didn't do it and Labour did do it.
He hasn't had time. The man has been in power for 4 weeks. You cannot reverse years of Tory misrule, disaster,
government policy.
Chaos.
It may have been a consultation. It was a choice by this government for early prisoner releases, and it sent the wrong message. The Tory government started it. I mean, honestly, this is pathetic, Christian. I mean, the Telegraph, the Express, for which you work, and the Daily Mail, they all Twitter around because, you had, until the election, the ear and the power of power, because you were close to the Tory government. Well, forget it, and you're not anymore. So you're just making, just hot air, really, frankly.
Let's see what some people are saying on Twitter or X. Joanne on X says, ban them. They didn't care about the feelings of the families of the children who were murdered. So why should they care about thousands of decent fans? Good point. Joan on X says, of course not. The two things are not related, and it sets a dangerous precedent for controlling what people have access to at the will of the state. And it's not just the state, Christian. I guess it's also the fact that, basically football stadiums are taking the law into their own hands, because I think they can decide whether they implement this or not. Which...
I have absolutely no problem with the manager of a football ground going, well, they've been convicted of this heinous crime.
OK, so you don't mind that bit. It's the government intervention.
It's the government's involvement that I'm uncomfortable with.
Well, we don't know what the government involvement is. And my understanding from what I've read here and from what Dame Diana said was that it would be up to the football clubs.
OK, well, maybe a useful deterrent then. OK, later...